As the new millennium dawned, the United States stood as the world's lone superpower, having emerged victorious from the Cold War and enjoying a booming economy during the 1990s. The year 2000 was marked by a contentious presidential election between Republican George W. Bush and Democrat Al Gore. The outcome was decided not by the popular vote Gore won that, but by the Supreme Court, which halted a Florida recount and effectively handed the presidency to Bush. The ruling, Bush v. Gore, was one of the most controversial in American judicial history, casting a long shadow over Bush's early presidency and deepening the nation's political divide. Barely 9 months into George W. Bush's presidency, the world changed forever. On September 11, 2001, 4 commercial airliners were hijacked by 19 terrorists affiliated with the Islamist extremist group Al-Qaeda. 2 planes were flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, a 3rd into the Pentagon near Washington, D.C., and the 4th, thanks to the heroism of passengers, crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. Nearly 3,000 people were killed in the deadliest terrorist attack on American soil. The images of collapsing skyscrapers, smoke-filled skies, and terrified citizens became seared into the national consciousness. The U.S. response was swift. President Bush declared a global war on terror. Within weeks, American forces invaded Afghanistan, targeting Al-Qaeda and the Taliban regime that harbored them. Although initial military objectives were quickly achieved, the war became America's longest conflict, stretching on for 2 decades. In 2003, the Bush administration expanded the war on terror by invading Iraq, citing the threat of weapons of mass destruction and alleged links between Saddam Hussein and terrorist networks. No WMDs were found, and the justification for war was widely criticized at home and abroad. The invasion led to years of insurgency, sectarian violence, and regional instability. The human cost American soldiers, Iraqi civilians, and displaced families was profound. Back home, the Department of Homeland Security was created, and laws such as the U.S. Patriot Act expanded government surveillance powers. Airports introduced strict security screenings, and Muslim Americans often faced increased scrutiny and discrimination. The post-9/11 era redefined security, civil liberties, and America's role in the world. In 2005, the nation watched in horror as Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans and surrounding Gulf Coast regions. The storm surge breached levees, flooding 80% of the city and killing over 1,800 people. The federal government's slow and disorganized response revealed deep inequalities and sparked widespread outrage. Images of stranded families on rooftops, people trapped in the Superdome, and a city drowning in chaos exposed the limits of American preparedness and compassion. Despite these crises, the 2000s also saw rapid technological change. Apple introduced the iPod in 2001 and the iPhone in 2007, ushering in the smartphone era. Facebook launched in 2004, followed by YouTube in 2005 and Twitter in 2006, revolutionizing how Americans communicated, consumed media, and formed communities. Silicon Valley became the engine of innovation, and the rise of social media would dramatically influence culture, politics, and even democracy itself. The 2008 financial crisis was another turning point. Sparked by risky lending, mortgage defaults, and the collapse of major financial institutions like Lehman Brothers, the crisis sent global markets into freefall. The U.S. entered the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. Millions lost their homes, savings, and jobs. In response, Congress passed massive bailouts and stimulus packages to stabilize the economy. Anger over the perceived favoritism toward banks led to the Occupy Wall Street movement in 2011, which protested economic inequality, and corporate power with the slogan, "We are the 99%. Amid this backdrop, the 2008 presidential election marked a historic moment. Democrat Barack Obama, a junior senator from Illinois, was elected the first African-American president of the United States. His campaign of hope and change energized millions, especially young voters and minorities. Obama inherited a nation in crisis, but sought to bring stability. His administration passed the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act to stimulate the economy and the Affordable Care Act in 2010 to expand healthcare coverage to millions. Obama's presidency also saw the end of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, the legalization of same-sex marriage, and the killing of Osama bin Laden in 2011 by U.S. Navy SEALs in Pakistan. Yet his tenure was not without challenges. Partisan gridlock intensified, particularly after Republicans took control of the House of Representatives in 2010. The Tea Party movement emerged, pushing a more radical conservative agenda and accusing Obama of overreach. Race relations came under intense scrutiny during Obama's presidency. Incidents such as the shooting of Trayvon Martin in 2012, the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014, and numerous other police-involved deaths of Black Americans sparked national protests and the birth of the Black Lives Matter movement. These events laid bare ongoing racial tensions and institutional inequalities in policing and criminal justice. In 2016, the nation once again faced a polarizing election. Republican Donald Trump, a billionaire businessman and TV personality, defeated Democrat Hillary Clinton in a surprise victory. Trump's campaign, marked by populist rhetoric, anti-immigrant policies, and sharp criticism of the political establishment, resonated with many Americans who felt left behind by globalization and cultural change. However, it also exposed deep divisions: urban versus rural, progressive versus traditional, globalist versus nationalist. Trump's presidency defied norms and sparked constant controversy. He withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement, enacted travel bans targeting Muslim-majority countries, pursued strict immigration policies including family separations at the southern border, and appointed 3 Supreme Court justices, shifting the court's ideological balance. His use of Twitter to bypass traditional media and directly speak to supporters was unprecedented. While his base remained loyal, critics accused him of eroding democratic norms, spreading misinformation, and inflaming racial tensions. In 2020, the world was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. The virus, first identified in China in late 2019, rapidly spread across the globe. By March 2020, the United States entered lockdowns as hospitals filled and deaths surged. The economy tanked, unemployment soared, and daily life changed drastically. Mask mandates, remote work, school closures, and strained healthcare systems became the new normal. The federal response, led by the Trump administration, was widely criticized as inconsistent and politicized. Misinformation and distrust in science fueled vaccine hesitancy and conspiracies. As the pandemic raged, the killing of George Floyd by Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin ignited global protests. Millions marched under the banner of Black Lives Matter, demanding justice and an end to systemic racism. Statues were toppled, cities erupted in both peaceful demonstrations and violent clashes, and a long overdue national conversation about race, policing, and privilege unfolded. The 2020 presidential election was one of the most contentious in history. Amid the pandemic, mail-in voting surged. Democrat Joe Biden ran on a message of unity, public health, and restoring norms. Despite winning by over 7 million votes, Trump refused to concede, claiming the election was stolen. His false claims culminated in the January 6, 2021, Capitol insurrection, when supporters stormed Congress in an attempt to overturn the results. The attack shocked the world and led to Trump's second impeachment. He was acquitted both times.